The best investments I've made to grow our practice has been people, number one. So getting the right people, not being afraid to pay for the person who makes a little bit more. I think in the times where I was struggling, I would get who could we hire at the cheapest, right? Who is the front desk person that would take the lowest wage? Who's the associate that would take the lowest starting salary to save money? But you're never going to save your way to success or to wealth.
So kick them rocks. If you don't like how I talk, I'ma keep on talking and walk my walk. Let the haters talk, let the rumors fly. I ain't got time to wonder why. The good Lord knows the man I am, and I'll die standing tall with a mic in my hand. You can kick rocks if you don't like how I talk. I'ma keep on talking and walk my walk.
Hey everybody, Dr. Baker here. Welcome to Rip It. Hey, point of the show is what? It's to bring everything back to innate. It's to connect with chiropractors, connect chiropractors to other chiropractors, connect chiropractors to innate. And because I think that when we get lost in practice, we get burnout, we get sick of it, it's because we're not focused on what we're supposed to focus on. So with me, good friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, Dr. Tim Smith. Doc, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
What most people may not know is that you and I were roommates back in the day. So we go a long ways back. I want to talk to you because I respect you a lot. I respect what you've been doing in practice. You literally went from virtually not practicing, surfing on the beach, just doing God knows what with your time, to fast forward now 15 years, seeing high volume, doing great financially, great family, great practice, etc. You've come a long way. So I, first of all, want to say congratulations. Second of all, I want to touch on some of those milestones and share with chiropractors that may be in one spot or the other how to get to that next level.
Absolutely. Here to help. We have been friends for a long time, way back in the chiropractic school days.
Yeah, everybody knows what that means. When you got out of school, you went to practice. What town was that?
Santa Cruz.
Down in Santa Cruz. And would it be fair to say that you were more focused on surfing and partying than you were practice at that time?
For sure. One advice for young people, don't move to a cool spot when you just get out of school.
Like, listen, if you want to start a successful practice, number one is don't move somewhere where the distractions are going to be greater than the practice is going to be.
Absolutely.
You had an opportunity to practice with the late TJ Osborne. I got a ton of respect for that guy. I met him at actually a Maximize Living seminar. It was like a one-day seminar somewhere. And it was at a time where you were kind of doing more surfing than adjusting. And he had a spot open in his office. I said, dude, Tim, you got to meet this guy. You got to go there. I think that you have done a ton for yourself, and I'm not giving TJ all the credit for your success, but I do want to take a second and be grateful to him for what he taught you. And I want you to share, if you would, a little bit about practicing with what I would consider one of the great chiropractors in our profession. And also maybe if there's 2 or 3 takeaways that you got from him that you're still using today, that'd be really cool.
I'm grateful every day for that opportunity, especially that you brought it to me, because I was getting to a point, even after just a few months, knowing I wasn't serving my purpose. I wanted to do something greater, and the opportunity I was in wasn't where I needed to be. So when I went to go to TJ's office, it was exactly what I had hoped for. It was people getting well. It was lives being changed every day. It was principle. It was purpose. It was the chiropractic lifestyle, everything that we do now. Exactly what I had hoped for getting out of school, but what I was not doing at that point. And he gave me an opportunity. He gave me an opportunity to come in and work with his team, work with his patients, understand his system with Max Living. And it totally changed my life, how I took care of my personal health, even my philosophy on chiropractic, to the point of it's a lifestyle. It's a holistic way of living. It's connected in all different areas, how it all ties together. The lifestyle that I live now for my family, that we teach our patients, that we've seen now change thousands and thousands of lives. So I'm so grateful for that. And he was a great mentor, not just in his teachings, but just in his presence. You always knew he had a heart for other people. You always knew he was doing things for the right reasons. He was a powerful presence, speaker, always confident. And it was all grounded in philosophy and purpose, in innate intelligence. He would do anything for anybody at any time. just because he wanted to see them do better. He's the kind of guy that on vacation is adjusting people on the beach and always going out of his way to help somebody in need. And that taught me a lot. Up to that point, I felt like everyone always had an agenda. They always wanted something from you. You got to be careful who you trust. And he taught me that you can give with an open heart. You can serve. You can love others no matter what. Things I still strive for these days. In fact, I have a picture of him on my desk, and I often think, what would TJ do in this situation when I'm struggling with a challenging situation, or how should I approach this? Well, I should show up with love and compassion and service. How could I help this person, even if maybe they don't see that?
I love that you said that, bro. It's an awesome answer. It wasn't necessarily what I expected, because when you walked into TJ's practice, I think he was seeing 600, 700 a week at the time.
When I was there, we were probably around 600 at our height. We were in the 900s, approaching 1,000. We were just going after it. And then the wheels kind of came off because we had been pushing crazy hard. It taught me a lot too about building a team instead of just grinding all the way. I think he learned that too after that period of time. It was just him and I were the only two doctors. He did a majority of the adjusting. I did everything else. We had a small team of 3 or 4 CAAs, and we we're pushing to 1,000. So we were just busting as hard as we could every single day. And as always, that hits a burnout point for him and for the team. And we saw some backfall from that and learned a lot.
Yeah, but here's the other thing that does, dude. When you go from not seeing hardly any patients to going into a 400 or 500 a week office, it's already kind of like geez, like this is what chiropractic is. But even to push to 1,000, because that is a metric that very few people in our profession ever reach. Some people in our profession have no desire to get there. Some have no real capacity to get there, but most people just lack the vision of what that even looks like. So I think that it is paramount that you were in a practice and you were a part, even if it fell apart at the wheel, even if you guys were going crazy and at 900, it fell apart because you didn't have the foundation in place. And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to. It still opened your mind to what that even looks like. And I think that has got to be at least part of why you're able to go to the volume that you're at today.
Absolutely. Knowing what is possible and how to really get there and keep that sustainable. It was great in there too. It was just always full, always people there for the right reason. It was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything else, but also taught me a lot of just what it takes to build sustainability as well.
I want to talk about that.
And that's what I've been able to incorporate now.
I want to come back to that because I think that's an important thing, and it's something you're doing really well in practice. The one thing I wanted to leave off with TJ and bring that to other docs is when you said that he's on vacation, he's adjusting people on the beach, right? That's not just that he's adjusting people on the beach. It's that he lives the principle, and the principle is coming out of him nonstop. Who you are speaks louder than the words that you say, kind of thing. And if you're the chiropractor that just can't turn the switch off, not that you're constantly thinking about work, not that you don't care about your family, but you're like, I got to go adjust that. I got to share the principle with everybody in this fucking beach. Excuse my language. If you're that guy, then I think you naturally attract more patients. You naturally grow a bigger practice.
Absolutely. And that was him too. It wasn't the business aspect of chiropractic. It was the service aspect of chiropractic that was always on his mind. And for anyone that was at his service, you would see that. It was the biggest showing I've ever seen for any funeral service I've ever been to. Lines around the corner, standing room only in the church, for all the people whose lives that he touched through the vision, the mission, the purpose of chiropractic, with his hands, with his words, with his heart. And that's what I strive to be as well. I was like, man, that guy made a difference.
Yeah, dude. And everybody listening to this show, if you don't recognize it, the intro of this show, the video, the last guy on the video is TJ on stage. And I purposely put it like that just as a tribute to this dude, because this is how much he meant to me and you, obviously. Let's jump into the sustainability aspect. Where are you at right now in practice? Because I want to talk about, before we get to sustainability, want to address the fact that you and I at the same volume at one point. We were in that high 100s, low 200s, and it was kind of just this hard spot to break through. And you've broken through that. You're now over 500 a week, and you've been doing that pretty consistently. Do you remember one or two key things or things you did, or was there a shift in your mindset? Was there a shift in your preparation? How did you break through that barrier of that 200 or 300 a week?
The biggest thing for me when I thought about it was just that it wasn't about the number. For the longest time, it was I had to get to this number. Otherwise, I wasn't successful. I wasn't serving well enough. And the focus was constantly on just grinding, pushing to make it happen versus creating the opportunity for it to happen. I think one of the biggest things is I was at a seminar, a Max Living seminar, and I was sitting in a breakout, and one of the speakers was talking about his practice, and he was in a practice that was seeing over 1,000 a week, and they were very successful. And one of the things he said is, we have no bad months, and it's about creating consistency and following a system. And that's when I realized I had just been pushing, and I would push, make things happen. We'd have a good month, and I'd be so busy and overwhelmed serving that in the next month would drop back down. So it was always one step forward, two steps back, one step forward, two steps back. When I started looking at, okay, we need to build a system here, that's when I hired an associate doctor, even though I didn't feel like I was necessarily ready, but I hired for where I wanted to go, not for where I was at. That's when we hired another team member. That's when we took on a marketing firm to help do our marketing online. And we started developing systems around how we wanted to run our practice. And then we really started to grow. Then we went to 300, and then we went to 400, because now we had the capacity to do it. I wasn't just doing it all myself, running around, serving every purpose in the office. I was a part of that system, but there was other people that were contributing to it. So we increased our capacity. Therefore, we were able to get to a new level. We created this space to be able to grow, and it wasn't always just pushing and grinding. So being able to lean on others to create a team helped us get to that level. And then the next level up to where we are now to create a more even sustainable business is building up the members of the team to where they're the main people, not me. It's not all about me. It's about our practice, our system, our patients, the delivery of that, and everybody plays a role in that. That's where that sustainability is coming from.
I was on a call, did a interview with Dr. David Erb yesterday, actually. And one of the biggest things that he talked about was pouring into his team, developing his team, and turning each and every team member into a better person, so that they not only wanted to never, ever leave that team and that environment and work at that office, but they could never go anywhere else and be treated better or be part of something as big as what they were a part of in the office. And when you've got team members that stick around for a long time, we're talking about systems and sustainability, there's really nothing more important than having an assistant or an associate that's around for longer than 6 months to be able to accomplish that.
Absolutely. My biggest focus now is building up others so they can be successful. Where I think initially where we got stuck, it was all about me. It was, how do I get myself to a certain level, and the team just kind of helps me, versus how do I build the team up so they can be the biggest parts of our practice and I support them.
Makes a ton of sense. Something else that you said earlier was you hired an associate before you were actually ready for it. And I did a similar thing. I hired Dr. Tyler before I could afford it. I was coming out of a really, really rough spot financially, and I just made a commitment that I was going to buckle down, do whatever it took to get there. And I hired an associate knowing full well I couldn't afford the salary that I promised him, but I had 3 months to get it done and get to that point. So maybe there's somebody listening that you're at a point where you want to grow, you feel stuck, but what's the next step? And to what Dr. Tim said, you've got to create the capacity for growth and to take it on, because if it comes and you're not ready for it, it'll just fall apart, and or you're never going to be able to get to that next level anyways.
That's right. You're just going to keep bumping up against that ceiling. You're going to keep running in circles, wondering why you're not there. We a lot of times fear things that may happen into the future, but many of those things don't actually happen. But when you create a vision and you create hope and faith, many times things do. So like you said, sometimes stepping out into the unknown, the difficult, the challenging, doing that scary thing is exactly what's necessary to get you to the next level. As long as you play it safe and take it easy and feel comfortable, you're never going to grow.
Well, I think there's also a point where like hiring another associate, there's doctors listening. You make enough money that your extra could pay another salary. Like it really could. Yes, you would not be able to put quite as much aside or put as much for retire. Whatever it is you're doing with your money, there's also this perspective of what is an investment. And you may need to take it some time where you're not putting as much toward your crypto, your 401k, your retirement, whatever it is, and that gets put into the salary of an associate that you're going to train, develop, and grow. And then once he or she hits that level that they need to be at, then what you were putting aside each month is now 3 or 4 or 5x what it was. And that was actually a better place to put your dollar than just sticking it somewhere to get a percentage off of it.
Exactly. There's never going to be a better investment than back into you and your leadership and your ability to create influence, to grow your business. Yeah, you might put it into some of these other areas, get a 5% return, 8%, 10% return, but you can 10x your business by investing back into the infrastructure, the people, hiring an associate doctor to increase your capacity. I mean, think about, you could go from 500 to 1 million this year just by investing back into your business. Where else are you going to do that? That doesn't exist.
I want to sit on this for a second. And I like to talk about volume and I like to talk about money because I get that chiropractic is service and we want to come back to innate all the time, but we should be the most wealthy doctors in the world. We should have the most influence of anyone in the world. I was on a call with Dr. Ben Lerner and we were talking about how Clarence and all those guys back in the day, their whole vision was not to have more patients. The vision was, how do I literally take over the world? How do chiropractors lead the world, not just healthcare? And then the byproduct of becoming that person was how many more new patients just fell through the door. So going back to money and volume, what have you spent money on to develop yourself? What is some of the best money you've invested in your practice? Like, what does that look like for you personally?
The best investments I've made to grow our practice has been people, number one. So getting the right people, not being afraid to pay for the person who makes a little bit more. I think in the times where I was struggling, I would get, who could we hire at the cheapest, right? Who is the front desk person that would take the lowest wage? Who's the associate that would take the lowest starting salary to save money? But you're never going to save your way to success or to wealth. Then I started thinking of, who do we actually need? And maybe it's a little uncomfortable to pay them that extra amount, that, $25 or $30 an hour when I wanted to pay 20, but it's worth it for that A player versus a B player, because one solid person could take the place of 2 or 3 people. So being able to invest back in people and then take the time to bonus them, send them to seminars, pour into them, that's where I spend a good amount of my investment. Also opening up our office. So buying a new office space, being able to create capacity for growth, because we are kind of getting to where we need to be. And in the last 2 years, we've been able to accelerate what we've been able to offer for our patients. That was a huge undertaking and investment, but it's helped our office grow substantially. And I always invest in coaching and training as well. I think that's a big part of it, is how do I get better as a leader? How do I get better as a business owner? How do I get better as an influencer? So I'm still learning and growing in those areas, so that way we can create that capacity. What is that vision for really where we want to go? And what are the tools to be able to get there? So the level of training and systems that I use now is different than I used early on, when it was just, how do I become as good of a chiropractor as possible? Now it's, how do I become as good of a leader or influencer for our team and what we're trying to accomplish? That's where I put a majority of my investment.
The last thing you mentioned, I think I want to go back to, is coaching and personal development. Because we're not telling a chiropractor, listen, just go out and spend a ton of money on a brand new staff or give everybody massive raises. We're not saying go out and hire an associate if you don't need one. You have to become the person that is able and willing to train the associate to be able to get to the point where they're helpful. Because if you just hire somebody, I don't know how many times you've hired an associate that is already better than you at adjusting, amazing at marketing, patient management, teaches them all the philosophies, amazing at retentions, running the systems. And it doesn't exist, because if it did, they would have their own practice and they'd be more successful than you and I would. We instead have to hire somebody that we're going to train and bring to that next level. So don't hire somebody just to hire them. That's not what we're saying. Hire them if you're ready to devote the time to train them. But before you can train someone else, you've got to go and get training yourself. So spend the money on coaching and find a mentor. And the chiropractors, sometimes I think they don't want to pay for coaching or mentorship or being a part of something. I don't know where my career would be right now if I hadn't been paying for coaching for the last 15 years.
Exactly. Another thing I learned that was such a key point is no one's going to do it for you. I think that's another thing we get into sometimes, because you get into that burnout zone. You're just so tired of doing everything. You're like, oh, I'm going to hire an associate and he's going to grow our practice, or she's going to grow our practice. That's not going to happen. You're not going to just all of a sudden sign up for some coaching and they're going to do everything for you. They're going to train your team. You're not going to start a new marketing program and they're going to provide you with all the new patients that you need. These things are all just tools and resources to help you be better. You still got to do the work. That work changes over time, but there's no quick fix. There's no easy solution. We're sold that all the time. I'm sure you get that as well. We're going to solve all your problems. This new system's going to fix everything. Buy this new table or this new modality and it's going to do it all. We do everything for you. We guarantee 40 new patients in the door every month. You know, none of that's going to happen. There is no, we're going to fix it for you. No one's going to train your team for you. No one's going to set up the process for you. You still got to do it. That's part of the investment, is you got to put that time and effort into those people, into those systems. You got to apply what you learn in the coaching, and that's when the growth happens.
There's only one really solution to all my problems. His name's Jesus, and I haven't found a coaching program that's necessarily. Anyway, to your point, and also the associate. So yeah, you don't hire an associate, then they grow. They go and grow the practice. That's not how it works. You hire the associate that you can train to be able to do 2 or 3 things that you're doing, so you can go and do 1 or 2 things that only you can do. And then you've really been able to take care of more things and reach another level because you freed up yourself from those things. That's more what it's like.
Exactly.
Hey, if you could pick a chiropractor, any chiropractor, dead chiropractor, can't be TJ, that's not fair. If there's any chiropractor that you'd like to hang out with again or at all, meet, shadow, whatever, who would it be?
I was thinking about that. I think I would love to have known Clarence Gonstead back in his day. This guy was just killing it. Chiropractic only. He had a hotel, a landing strip, an entire facility. You know, he wasn't marketing on Facebook. He wasn't like, hey, who do you know that should come in? You know, he didn't have a screening booth at the mall. People just showed up. The presence just attracted people to the point where there was a hotel and an airstrip for people to go. You know, a lot of times chiropractors are like, oh, there's not enough people out there. Dude had an airstrip. People are flying from around the world to come to his office. They didn't ask, how much was it? Are you on my insurance? How many days a week do I need to come in? They just did whatever they were told, and people got better. That place, I'm sure, was awesome.
Yeah, dude. And to your point, I think it comes back to, because that one thing that I do know, or I've heard about Gonstead, is he would see patients at all hours of the day, be seeing patients at night. And I don't know about you, but I get to like 7:30 at night. People think that I work a long time. I leave the office around 7:30, sometimes 3 days a week. Oh, like, woe is me. Clarence Gonstead's working until midnight, grabbing a snack and coming back. But it's just like when you talk about TJ adjusting everybody on the beach, the reason why people flew in from all the world, obviously he was excellent at what he did, but he literally ate, breathed, sleep, live chiropractic. Like, that's all he did. And I'm not saying that I want my entire life to be nothing but chiropractic. I got some other stuff I'd like to do. And I'm sure his marriage sucked. I'm sure he had no family life. I don't even know what that was like. We really talk about how great his professional life was without recognizing that the other stuff might have suffered. But I think that people listening to the show, if you just put 10% of the focus that Gonstead had into being a better chiropractor, you probably wouldn't have to do a bunch of Facebook marketing either.
Exactly. I love what he did. He created his own technique. He just wasn't accepting the status quo. He was always working on being better, like for his entire life. How do I make this better? How do I take better care of patients? How do we get better outcomes? Chiropractic was his purpose.
What's something you're working on right now that you're trying to improve in your office? Because obviously it's successful. You've been sustaining over 500 visits a week for a while. Obviously that fluctuates back and forth, but when you reach a certain milestone in practice, it's usually something bad has to happen for it to fall below that, because that's just a whole new mentality of who I am as a chiropractor and who we are as a team. What are some things you guys are working on right now that you think as you accomplish these, you go to the next level? And what is the next level for you? And what is that vision like?
What I'm really working on right now is making myself less important in the day-to-day operations of the practice. My vision is that our practice continues to grow and take care of patients for many, many years, not dependent on me. What happens to a lot of these successful practices is about the one doctor. And when that one doctor isn't there, isn't available, the practice suffers. So really what I'm trying to create is not Dr. Tim's practice, but the practice is the solution. So no matter who you come in, who you see, the results, the outcome, the system is based upon the collective, not just the one person. And then creating an entire brand around that. So that's going to be all of our online, that's going to be our external, where everybody knows exactly what we do. Our focus is we help you get back to your health freedom through chiropractic and holistic lifestyle. And when we put that out there, everybody could benefit from that. Reaching the unreached, giving to people who've been struggling and suffering for so long, and really getting to the people who are not just the chiropractic people. Everyone tries to focus on getting that next chiropractic person, the person that goes from this chiropractor to that chiropractor. But what about all the other 95% of people that don't go to a chiropractor or have never been to a chiropractor? I want to reach those people where they're like, I had no idea chiropractic was the solution to my problem. I'm so grateful that I'm here. That's who I'm really working on reaching. So we're building a team, a system to reach those people and to be able to help those people where we don't have a capacity based upon one single person.
I think you're touching on one of the, I guess, the profession's most, I don't know how you say it, like we've been in practice since 1895 and we still take care of roughly 10% of the population on a regular basis, if that. Like, I think that's generous, right? There's this massive gap, and you and I had the greatest secret of all time. Like, hey, the body heals itself. All you have to do is remove the interference. People are like, what do you mean? Like, it's been around forever, yet it's so abstract. And there is this, like, it's not just a small gap. There's this chasm between who we currently take care of and how many people are out there that have no clue what we're talking about. And whether they know it or not, they want what it is we serve and have. How do we bridge that gap? It's okay if you don't have the answer to that question, because I don't know anybody's like, oh, I got the golden ticket. But like, talk to me about what your thoughts are.
I'm working on it. I think the biggest thing is you speak to their pain points in their life. People are motivated by what they're not able to do, what they struggle with. People always talk about what are the greatest miracles that you see, you know, the amazing like outcome that came up. And my greatest miracles are the everyday types of things. The mom that comes in that's overwhelmed with a few kids, not sleeping, tired all the time, brain fog, maybe on a couple of medications, that has no idea chiropractor is her solution. And maybe she sees a YouTube video of us talking about something like that. Or she meets a friend who says, you should come see my chiropractor. She comes in and she gets introduced to chiropractic and has that same response. I had no idea that this was even possible for me. Starts getting adjusted, starts making some changes, sleeping better, headaches are going away, shows up better for her kids, shows up better for her husband. That's a miracle to me. Those miracles are happening every single day in our office. So what I'm really focusing on now is not how to get that next chiropractic patient who is looking for a new chiropractor. I actually don't even like those people. I try to get them to not come into my office most of the time. I say like, hey, the joint is open right now. You could just walk right on in there, right? If you need a new chiropractor, what I'm here is to really help people transform their life. And usually those are not chiropractic patients. So that's what we're working to. So all the kind of conditions that people are dealing with, whether that's pain, that's a health problem, that's a lack of quality of life, this is what I'm speaking to. I don't want to just put out a chiropractic ad. I want to put out a life ad, a quality of life message to where all these people that are struggling and suffering that don't want to be taking more drugs. They don't want surgery. They don't want to just deal with it. They're tired of being sick and tired. I want to speak to that person. And then they come into my office and we help show them that this is a chiropractic problem. You just didn't know it.
the consistency of what you're saying with what everyone else that I have on the show and every chiropractor that's come and gone before us is this: what I'm focused on has to be greater than what's in front of me. And what I'm focused on, if it's changing, it's a cliche to say shit like, oh, I'm just going to change the world, or like, we're going to go take over the world for chiropractic. Like, good for you. But really, if you bring that back down, and you said it really well, if you're focused on reaching the mom that's not reaching her potential, and you're thinking about people's potential, and you're thinking about them having a better life and being a better spouse and everything, you're already so many levels above their back pain and neck pain that their back pain and neck pain go away just by walking in the freaking door. And they're going to come to the office and refer people. But if you were only focused on their back pain and neck pain, they ain't referring people. I mentioned this in a show previously where John DeMartini used to say, listen, if you want to have an impact on your city or an impact on your town, you got to think at a city level. Impact in your city, you got to think at a state level. When impact on your state, you got to have a nationwide level, etc. And so it's the same thing. You're just saying it differently. And I don't know if you recognize it or not. Your vision over the years that I've known you has just extended further out and gone higher. And because that's what you're focused on, it's easy to see 500 a week. It's easy to have all these new patients come in. Of course, I have a great team. Of course, I train this. Like, that's no longer a hard project, but it's because you're looking way over there.
Exactly. Pain is just a symptom. What we look for is, how does that affect your life? It's not that you have neck pain. It's that you're afraid that your neck pain is going to cause you to lose your job and you can't provide for your family. It's not just that you have back pain. It's that, you're not able to golf, and that's what keeps your sanity in a stressful, busy life. That's what we focus on, get people their life back. And when you start focusing in that area, it's a much bigger contribution. And of course, that can benefit so many people. There's lots of solutions for back pain. You can take ibuprofen. You can put some heat on it. You can get an injection. You can do all these things to relieve your back pain. But is that going to give your quality of life back? No, it's likely going to cause other problems.
Get practical with me for a second, because one thing I'd like to do is not just cast vision and make this an abstract thing, but if there's a doc listening, it's like, yeah, I kind of want to modify my day one process. This dude's talking about lifestyle stuff. I've never done that. You don't have to sit there and go through a day 1, 2, 3, day 5, whatever. But is there any like particular things you guys are doing in the practice that truly are focused on that? Like, what did you change? Is it the conversation? Is it the intake paperwork? Is it the tour? What is it that really makes that jump for you in your practice?
I've been focusing a lot on this. In fact, right now, I am obsessed with the day one process. The day one process is everything. That's not just people starting. That's people staying compliant. That's people getting results. That's them referring. That's everything. I've been putting a lot of focus and training on the day one for myself and for our entire team. The biggest changes that we're focusing on in day one is really understanding how what's going on with that patient is affecting their life. So our day one went from, what's the pain? How often do you feel it? How long is it? What's it on a scale of 1 to 10? Have you had accidents and injuries? What other pain issues are you noticing? To, what are you concerned that this pain is causing? How is it affecting the people in your life? What are you afraid of if this pain doesn't get better? What are the things that are limited by this? What are the other health concerns that you feel like are going to come up because of this pain? Where does it limit you in your life? How does that make you feel? What have you tried and hasn't worked? How do you feel about that? So really get into that emotional component of what's going on in their life and their why. What is their why? What is their why? Why they even decided to walk in your office that day? It's not because they had back pain. It's because that back pain is affecting some area of your life. And if you can find what that area is, and you can help create a path for that person to get their life back, they're going to love you. They're going to want to come in. You're not going to have to push them. You're not going to have to sell them on some fancy system. You're not going to have to go low dollar and negotiate to get them to start to come in. They're going to want to come in. They're going to want to bring their family because you solved their problem. You fixed their biggest concern that's going on in their life right now. And they're going to love you for that. That's my number one focus. Not a new fancy system, not a great sales process, not new technology, but understanding this person in front of you and what's really going on, and connect on an emotional level, and then help create a path and a plan to get what they want in their quality of life through chiropractic and what it is that we offer.
This is important for me to hear, and this is why I have been guilty of having associates. I'm not saying an associate can't do a great day one, but I'd be like, well, jump in and do the day one, like almost like let's just get the day one out of the way. Let's get that over with. I'm going to stand at the table and keep adjusting because nobody can adjust like I can. But lately, and I hurt my shoulder. I told you that before we started recording, but lately, because I can't even adjust, I've been going in and doing the day ones and I'm having a ton of fun with it. And the outcome is different. So thank you for the statement that I'm writing down right now is the day one is everything. And I just went to a chiropractor myself. I went to an upper cervical doc. I've been flying down to Phoenix to see Kyle. I fly to Phoenix every 6 weeks to get my neck adjusted because nobody up here has really powerful knee chest adjustment. And finally found somebody. And so I went in and I literally, I'm doing a care plan with him. Chiropractor paying chiropractor for care. But I remember a lot of things about the first visit. So when you said the day one is everything, I just went through my own day one as a patient. And you're correct.
For sure. Those who have the greatest influence realize I used to be the same. It was just, let's get through the day one and we'll get him at the doctor's report. We'll get him with the first adjustment. But then I realized those difficult conversations that I got to think about, it's the, why does my husband got to be here at my doctor's report? I can make this decision on my own. The person that falls off in 2 weeks, like where'd they go? It's because of the day one. The day one is the foundation of everything. So now that's where I put all my effort. If the day one is good, everything else is easy. There's no question why the spouse needs to be back at the doctor's report. They come to the doctor's report. They come to the doctor's report ready to, hoping you can help them, ready to get started with what you're recommending. And then we just got to figure out the details. Not we're having to talk them into it.
Oh, bro, that's huge. Do you do a lot of the day ones in your office now that you're so adamant about them?
I do a lot of the day ones, but I'm rapidly training my team how to do it as well. Again, so it's not dependent on any one person, because then what happens when I want to take a vacation? What happens when I take a day off? Right? I don't want to have the success of the practice dependent on me. Like I am the master day one and nobody else can do it. Well, then what happens when I'm not there? What happens to the practice? And why would I limit everybody else? So I'm actually training my doctors. I have a CA specifically who is going to be doing all of my day ones, and I'm training with her every day. She's going through the same training that I am. We're role playing. We're going back and forth. She goes in with me. I want her to be a ninja at the day one.
As far as like, so I have a few CAs, and the benefit of, I think when you have a great team, everybody's got a different personality and everybody's got a different strength. Obviously, you're not hiring everybody that's the exact same. It's never going to work. We all know that. But I have the best team I've ever had, and I'm super excited about that. But it's clear, like one of them's like, just get shit done, and the other one's like, tell me your whole life story. So like, there's obviously people that are better at doing day ones. Which one of your CAs is doing the day one, and why?
This is a person I actually hired specifically for this role called the new patient concierge. So what I looked for is someone who has a driver mentality. They can hear no. They're not afraid to ask the hard questions. They don't care so much what the person in front of them is thinking. They're like, let's go, let's move forward. Also, they have to have communicate abilities, right? So that's going to be a person who has a higher I and a high enough an S. These are DISC personality profiles. So someone who can connect with somebody, someone who's not so robotic or so over the top that they just drive through people without listening. They have to have emotional intelligence. They have to be a good communicator, and they have to be coachable. I think that's another big one. So if you put someone in there who's too shy, they're not going to go deep enough. They're not going to ask the difficult questions, right? When someone says, yeah, it's my back pain that's affecting you, they're not going to go, what about that back pain? What is it that affects you that you're concerned about? How does that affect your family? What do you think your kids think when you can't come and play with them? How does that make you feel? They're not going to ask those kinds of questions. You got to have someone who's okay asking those questions, and they're okay hearing no. They're okay with, someone saying something maybe mean or bad to them, and they're like, oh, they hate me, I'm doing a bad job. So they have to be resilient. That's part of what I look for, is someone who's resilient, who's doing it for the right reasons, who has that communication ability, who can be coached to be able to do it the right way.
How long are these day one conversations taking? Because I would literally tell my associate doctor, listen, stop asking open-ended questions. Like, how often you have the headaches is a different question. Is when do the headaches start? Because when do the headaches start usually turns into a story from 7th grade when they got pushed into a locker. And then it leads into this whole entire other thing. So I am victim of, let's get this conversation to be quick. Let's get what we need. Let's get our pain points for the next visit. It sounds like your conversation is allowing the open-ended questions because then you're utilizing that.
Absolutely. Should be 90% patient talking, 10% you. And to do that, you have to ask open-ended questions. The beginning of the conversation is close-ended. We don't say, well, what brings you in today? Because that's when you get the, well, let me tell you every single thing that's happened up to this point.
Right.
Our paperwork is very specific. I think that was another big point too, is we completely edited our paperwork based upon what's going on with their life. It's not all a bunch of OPQRS questions. It's what's your concern? Why does that concern you? Where's it affecting you? What's going on? What happens when it gets worse? It's very much about what's going on with them and not just a bunch of areas of pain that we're focusing on. And I'm not going back through their whole history. I'll ask the main pain point. Where's it at? And I'm very specific. I'm going to ask a couple of key questions to understand what's your primary concern. And then we'll really go into the most important part of why you want to get this taken care of and what that looks like for you. So then when I'm asking, what do these headaches feel like? When did it start? I see that you put 2 years ago. Had you ever had it prior to that? Yes, it actually started here. Got it. So this is not just a 2-year problem. This is a 10-year problem. In the last 2 years, it seems like it's been getting worse. What does it feel like now when it's at its absolute worst? Well, it feels like this, right? So now we're going through it with very direct questions initially, but then when we start asking about quality of life type stuff, those are very open-ended.
Okay.
It should take about 10 to 15 minutes. If it's less than 8 minutes, you likely didn't do a good job. That day 2 is going to be really challenging. If it went over 15 minutes, you probably talked too much or you weren't controlling the conversation. So you got that kind of sweet spot in there. But again, trying to rush through the day 1 makes the other process take longer. Since we've been putting more effort into the day 1, the day 2, the everything else is shorter because we don't have a bunch of objections because now they're coming in hoping we can help them ready to get started versus like, well, I got to hear the sales pitch. And if it all works out, maybe I'll start.
Got it. What do you think is when you get to the point where you've got fully functioning doctors, staff, everybody, what do you think is the ultimate, like you're showing up 1 day a week for training? Like, what do you want? And like, I don't think it's a problem for chiropractors. First of all, let me openly say, I don't think everybody should just try to jump into managing their practice from their laptop on the beach somewhere and expect everything to be successful. This shit takes a lot of work. And like, you've been putting in layers, you've been training people, like you're going to have people quit and you're going to start over again. And it happens. But the reason why people stick around, the reason why people even get to the level where they can run your practice without you there is not some magic trick or something you hired. You worked your ass off to get to that point. So let's be really clear on that. But that being said, if you've been in practice 15, 20 years and you've developed yourself enough to develop other people, you should be thinking about an exit. You should be thinking about how can the practice run itself so that you can hand it off to your kids, or you can take a 2-year trip to around the world with your kids. So whatever you want to do, right? You've put in the time, you got to that point. So my question for you is, what is that ultimate, like, I know we're never going to get there, right? I'm going to be adjusting people on the beach when I'm 80, like TJ. I'm never going to quit, but what does that look like for you?
I've been thinking a lot about this over the last few years. My biggest goal is what I would consider time freedom. So I'm doing things at that point because I want to, not because I have to. I think a lot of people get into that have to point and they could even lose their love for chiropractic or for other things because it just feels like I have to do it. You know, I enjoy what I do. I know what we do is good for a lot of other people, but I don't want to have to come in. And I've certainly had those days, those weeks where it's just like, I have to go in today. You know, I want to go to my kid's school performance, but I have to be in the office. I, want to take a day off because I hurt my shoulder or, I'm sick, but I have to be in because the practice depends on me. I have hundreds of patients that are expecting me today. My team and their livelihood depends on me being there. So you get to these have to points in life. And I don't feel like you can really serve at your best when it's a have to. And not every day is a have to, but there are those days. I want every day to be a want to, where it's like, yeah, I'm here today because I want to be here. I absolutely don't have to be here. I could totally not come in at all today, this week, this month, and everything is the same or better. I'm here because I want to be here. I want to adjust people. I want to serve. I want to do this for the right things. And I want to have that capacity to go even bigger, be bigger beyond just my office. And there's no way you can do that grinding away every day in your office. And I want to be able to give other people the opportunity to be great chiropractors, not underneath me, but with me, where we can all do things. People have great career opportunities in my office to grow and serve their vision of what they want in their life, to be able to expand this potentially to online, to where other people can experience this type of benefits of what is the holistic lifestyle look like, and then filter that into local chiropractors, maybe in their area. So really being able to grow above our current space and what my capacity is to a capacity that's so much greater. And I can't do that if I don't have the time freedom to make that happen.
I like that you call it time freedom. I know that financially right now, there's probably chiropractors on the line that are watching this or listening to this that have a ton of money. And chiropractors, like, there's no money like chiro money. Let's be real. Like when you're doing well, it's really good. And I know that you personally, I think you have enough money set aside right now. You could probably shut down the practice for a couple months and kick it back on and it'd be fine. So it's not about I'm only going to work because I want to, not because I have to, just as a financial component. It's the time component too, because even though there's a chiropractor who's got $10 million invested and really doesn't need to work anymore, just live off the passive income, because that's a good monthly income. The question is, could you just step back and watch your office for an entire week, and will it run without you being a part of it? That's what I think you're talking about, hitting that level, because a lot of us can afford to close down the office for a month. We're not going broke. We're not going bankrupt. But could we actually watch it operate without us from back here because we've trained it and built it and set it free?
That's it. When I can be not in the office for a month and I go and I look at our stats, they didn't go like this. Right now, our office will operate and serve all of our current patients, but it doesn't meet our growth goals. So that's really why I'm trying to build every single system in the office that's not dependent on my participation. And that's what happens in a lot of practices. Well, either it's set up that way or just kind of ends up that way, where there's one doctor who is a primary. Maybe that one doctor is an associate doctor. Even that can be challenging, because what happens if that doctor leaves? What happens if that doctor gets hurt? What happens if they have a life situation and they can no longer come in? You're still just stuck right in the same back position. So not really making it about, again, any one person, but a system that some people are going to be better at than others, of course. But if you follow the system effectively, it's still going to work really well. And that's my vision. In fact, my vision is July 1st, 2027, where I can not come in for a month and everything just looks good. We had goals. We hit a lot of those goals. We saw new people. They started care. People stayed around. We collected good money. Everyone was happy.
I like it, dude. I'm excited for you. Last thing I want to ask is this. What advice would you give your younger self? What advice would you give a new doc coming out of school? Chiropractic has been in practice a couple years, doesn't feel like they're killing it. Any one thing you want to leave with them or the younger you before we leave?
The biggest thing is let go of the ego. That's such a big one. Either it's the ego of, I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't have the self-esteem. I'm a new doc. And you end up overselling yourself or having a high ego or not being coachable because you don't want to feel that less than, or just thinking you got it all figured out and you're just going to go kill it on your own and you don't need any help. Right? Those two things can really kill an early career and put you in a tough spot for a while. I know those are both two things that I struggled with that took me time to overcome, a lot of deep reflection. And it affected not just me, it affected my team, it affected our patients, it affected my personal relationships, because I felt like I was just going to go to this certain level. And when I wasn't doing it, I felt like I wasn't good enough, that I was a failure. I didn't ask for the deep help. It's when I finally decided that, like, okay, I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to admit where I'm not good enough. I'm going to get the right type of coaching. I'm going to let other people contribute. That's when things really started changing. So if I would have done that earlier, I probably could have significantly reduced about 5 years of crazy stress and hardship that I'm still kind of working through now. If someone could have told me that early on, I'd be like, oh, thanks, that's good advice, and really take it to heart too. And
If you would actually listen to when someone told you that.
you got to listen. That's the key. Is don't just be like, yeah, I know better than you. You don't. You may think you do, but you probably don't. So being vulnerable and being open is such a huge asset. The earlier you can do that, the more you're going to grow.
That's great, man. And being someone who's known you for going on close to 20 years now.
Are we that old? Is it 20 years?
Well, I've been in practice. This fall will be 15 years in the same building, but I started practice in fall of 09. And
Yeah.
so this fall would be 16 years in 17 years in practice. And we met early in chiropractic school. We were roommates for at least a year and a half. I just want to say, as someone who has talked to you and known you for damn near 20 years, which does make me feel old as heck, the way that you speak and the way that you craft your message and your vision has radically changed. And again, I think that's the reason why your growth has you've broken through these limits, and you continue to break through them. And I'm super proud of you, but it's because you finally started to pour into yourself and fix yourself. And then by fixing yourself, you became a totally different person. Like, you pulled off that layer that was really keeping you from getting to that point. And it's just been cool to see you grow. So I love that your piece of advice for a new doc listening is that don't waste your time being willing to grow and being willing to change. Don't waste your time being coachable, not being coachable, because it really is a waste of time. We only have so much time to be able to do this awesome profession that we've been given.
That's good. I appreciate that. And I definitely attribute the personal growth, internal, that was more than anything. It wasn't an external thing. It was looking deep within and overcoming that. That made the biggest difference. And that's still where I put a lot of my focus.
Absolutely. It's good having you on the show today, Doc. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Love being here and ripping it.